We have talked enough about the Cavs. Done talking about the Cavs. Let's talk about the players who need to step up to determine the Magic's playoff outcome. It's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is April 16th. It will be April 17th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we'll talk about three players who you might not be thinking about, or might be, I don't know. Three players who will determine the Orlando Magic's playoff outcome. The players that need to step up for the Magic in order to get the series win over the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll get some obvious ones, some not so obvious ones, and maybe a little bit in between. We'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Now, before we dive too deep into this, I want to first say the obvious. Paolo Banchero is really important. Paolo Banchero having a good playoff series is probably essential to the Magic doing well in this series against the Cavs. And Paolo Banchero's playoff performance is frankly probably really important for the next 5, 6, 7 years, however long he's going to be with the Magic. And what their ultimate success will be. Your stars matter. And so our second segment might be in the well, duh category, but that's not who I want to focus on in today's episode. As much as, we're all eager to see how Paolo performs, as much as we're all eager to see how Franz performs and how this team in general performs, how Jaylen Suggs performs. I don't want to focus so heavily on the big players. I'll spoil it. We'll talk Franz in the second segment, and I'll get to why I think it's important to mention him there in a bit. But I want to focus on kind of the unsung heroes. If the Magic are going to be successful in this postseason, if the Magic are going to win this series against the Cleveland Cavaliers, yes, Paolo is important. Yes, Franz is important. Yes, Jaylen Suggs is important. Yes, Wendell Carter is important. And maybe we'll talk more about Wendell Carter. That might be a good one to talk about too. In fact, I like him better than who I was originally going to talk about, which was Wagner. But we'll get to all that. I have another player in mind who's really important and could be kind of a swing player for the Magic in this series. For better or for worse, I do think Cole Anthony is one of the most important players in this series. We've talked about this a lot. The Magic have the fourth highest scoring bench in the league. They have one of the best, at least, offensive benches in the league. However, while that bench group has played very, very well and has carried this team through a lot of minutes, I do think that the Magic's depth is going to get tested. And I think we will see the rotation shorten. I think we will see far less of Markelle Fultz. Mo Wagner is someone that I think is going to make an impact in this series. I was talking with our friends from King James Gospel over at Orlando Magic Daily, and I asked directly the question, who is the one player that kind of scares you a little bit in this series? And he said Mo Wagner, because Mo Wagner is going to be tough. He's going to be gritty. He's going to go after the glass. He's just going to be always in your face. And honestly, as much as Cole Anthony is a sixth man and nominally the sixth man, I trust that Mo Wagner is going to score. He's going to find points. He's going to find a way to make an impact. The guy that I want to see step up in this series, the guy that I want to see make a name for himself in this series and put behind him a kind of rough year in a lot of ways, a good year in a lot of ways, but a rough year in a lot of ways, is Cole Anthony. Anthony finished the season with a career low 11.6 points per game. He shot 33.8% from beyond the arc. little bit below his career average, and 43.5% from three. Second year over 40% from, or 40%, 43.5% from three. Great. 43.5% from the field. Average 2.9 assists per game. Obviously, career low minutes for him. He's coming off the bench. Second time in his career, he's mostly come off the bench. But it was an up and down wave throughout the course of the year. If you look at his splits from the entire season, Anthony rode a lot of ups and downs. Came out guns blazing, 37.9% shooting from three in November, averaged 15.7 points per game, and then just steadily decreased. 12.7 points per game in December on 32% shooting from three, 8.8 in January at 23.8% from three, 9.4 in February on 37% shooting, so at least the shooting peaked back up. And then he closed the season pretty strong. In March, he averaged 11.9 points per game on 37.5% shooting. And then kind of in the 8 games in April, just 8.4 on 30% shooting from three. Cole Anthony's a volume scorer. He is someone that is going to try and shoot a lot. And since Franz Wagner is not, in that second unit, is not necessarily a kind of score first, on the ball type of guy, since he's not kind of that guy that is the alpha or is kind of the main star, Cole Anthony ends up with the ball in his hands a lot. He ends up trying to attack a lot. He ends up getting into his little spots in the mid-range and in the paint and hitting those like kind of tough floaters and mid-range jumpers. And look, I honestly have a lot of confidence in Anthony to hit those shots, but they are low percentage shots and he hits them at a low percentage. Anthony likes those shots. He likes to get to those spots. And generally, like, he's going to make a good chunk of them. Or at least he'll make a good chunk of them when he's playing well. The Magic need big games from Cole Anthony. And just for reference, against Cleveland this year, 11.3 points per game, 59.4% shooting, 57.1% from three, 3.5 assists per game in all 4 games against the Cavs. So he plays well against this Cleveland team. They're they don't, outside of Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. Yeah, they got Isaac Okoro. Not a lot of guard depth. Sam Merrill going to be chasing him around the 3-point line. That's going to be a concern if he plays. But Cole Anthony is someone that can make a real impact for this team. And we've seen when he has big scoring games, what a boost it is. The Magic in Sunday's game against the Bucks won that game because their bench was so good. Their bench came in, got the lead back, and Jonathan Isaac, obviously a huge part of that, covers so many mistakes defensively, allows Cole to be a little bit more aggressive. They made some mistakes, and they really took off. Here's some numbers for you. Cole Anthony scored 20 points or more in 10 games this year. Orlando was 6-4 in those games. So a little bit of correlation there. You don't want him on the ball too much, but he is someone that can score and make an impact. And again, we're going to get used to this here. And I know I talked a little bit about it yesterday. The margins between a win and a loss in this series are going to be pretty small. 3 of the 4 games between the Magic and the Cavs this year were more than 10 points. Cleveland blitzed Orlando early in the first 2 games. Orlando kind of wore Cleveland out, ran away with the game in the fourth quarter in the other two matchups. This game is going to have this series is going to have some very fine margins. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be just little things here and there. A short burst early in the fourth quarter. A slump in the second. A bad first quarter, as we saw in the 2 losses this year. And so being able to score consistently off the bench, having someone like Cole Anthony who can come in and get on a little bit of a heater, that's going to matter. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you. And so look, Cole Anthony, 13 points, 5 for 9 shooting, 1 for 3 from 3, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals against the Bucks on Sunday. That's kind of the effort we're looking for. Just give it, all the Magic really need from Cole Anthony in this postseason is give us somewhere near 15 points per game, shoot about 50%. You know, if you're 4 for 9, that's fine. Like 5 for 9, 4 for 9 is great. Make your threes when you're open, rebound, keep the ball moving. If Cole Anthony does these things, it gives the Magic a huge advantage because Cleveland's bench, and look, everyone's going to shorten their rotations here. You know, I think we will see less of Markelle Fultz. I think we will see less of Joe Ingles. You know, I think they will both get chances in game one, but they'll have quick hooks if the defense isn't up to snuff or if the Magic aren't in the lead. The Magic need these guys. And look, you know, you can easily say, oh, well, the Magic also need Gary Harris to make threes. Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't. But the difference between a good Cole Anthony game and a bad Cole Anthony game, that might be the difference in this series. Like, I'm serious about that. Whether Cole Anthony has a big showing might be the difference for the Orlando Magic in this series. And he's definitely a player that I am going to have my eye on throughout the course of this series. We'll talk. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the stars, but the Magic need Franz Wagner too. What the Magic missed from Franz Wagner when he was out last week and why he's so important for the Magic coming up. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver who likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It has room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop at nissanusa.com. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. Guys, I need you all to listen up for this huge announcement. You've heard us talking about Monopoly Go, and it's playoff time. We've all been tracking leaderboards. We've all been tracking standings every day, keeping our eye on the scores and putting all our heart into it. So I'm super happy to announce that I'm finally on top. I'm sure that you feel on top too. That's right. Obviously, though, we're talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded more than 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on classic Monopoly. You can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. I know when I grew up, I played some specialty Monopoly boards. Love my specialty Monopoly boards. Monopoly's it's just a fun game. Charge rent on iconic properties just like classic Monopoly. You can charge your friends rent on all those iconic properties or go after the Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. But my favorite part is the leaderboards where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's gone bankrupt. After all, the game is about the perils of capitalism. So go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day. Every day it is getting to be draft week in the NFL. So go check out the Locked On NFL Mock Draft Live on April 17th. That is today, Wednesday at 7 Eastern Time, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th. That is today, Wednesday at 7 Eastern Time to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th. That's today, Wednesday at 7 Eastern Time, Streaming live on Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. We got a small taste, I think, of why Franz Wagner is so important last week. When he had to miss Tuesday's game against Houston and Wednesday's game against Milwaukee, look, the Magic were rough, and the Magic were in a rough spot, and we don't really want to think so hard about how poorly they played in those games because it was in the past, and now they're irrelevant. Now we are in the playoffs. Now we've moved on. That's the truth of it. That's a big part of it. But here's the thing. Here's the deal as well. Franz Wagner is essential to everything the Magic do. It may not seem that way because he is not he's on the ball a lot. Don't get it wrong. But it may not seem that way because he doesn't always play like the star that he is. He does like to recede in the background. He does like to play off of other players. The Magic have done a good job to get him on the ball more. And, as we mentioned earlier, every single one of his stats are up. He's averaging a career high in points, career high in field goal attempts, career high in three-point field goal attempts. He is trying to do more, even if the shooting hasn't followed. But Franz Wagner is undoubtedly important. Undoubtedly one of the most essential players on the Magic's roster. And it was seen by how much the Magic struggled when he was out. When Franz Wagner wasn't there, the Magic looked really, really rough. The numbers really show this well too. The Orlando Magic have a plus 4.3 net rating when Franz Wagner is on the floor. 112.5 offensive rating, slightly below the team's average, and a 108.2 defensive rating. Only Jonathan Isaac and Joe Ingles have a higher on-court net rating. Magic are plus 5.8 when Joe Ingles is on the floor. Magic are plus 10.9 when Jonathan Isaac is on the floor. We're going to see a lot of Jonathan Isaac in this series. So I'm naming all these important players the Magic need to step up, but Jonathan Isaac we're going to see plenty of them. That defense, by the way, is second behind only Jonathan Isaac. And obviously Franz and J.I. share the court a lot, so that's part of the equation. From a lineup perspective, if you just go by four-man lineups with your four main guys, Franz, Paolo, Jaylen, Wendell, the Magic have a plus 7.1 net rating with those four players on the floor. That's a 111 offensive rating and a 103.9 defensive rating. 751 minutes, pretty robust. That quartet plays very, very well. If you make that a three-man lineup of Paolo, Wendell, and Jaylen Suggs, it drops to plus 2. The offense drops to 110.2. Defense is good at 108.2, but it drops to 2.0 if you take that trio, if you take Franz out. That shows you, A, Franz's big defensive impact, and B, how much having a second guy to put pressure on the rim really helps you. I will argue, and I did on Orlando Magic Hub coming up on Wednesday morning, I would argue one of the bigger keys in this series and one of the bigger things that we have to watch is which team is able to get out in transition a little bit more. Just a little bit more, not a whole lot more. Which team is able to kind of get to their offense before the other team sets up their defense. When you have two teams that are so good defensively that can set up in the half court and get stops, the team that's able to get to the basket or the team that's able to get into their offense quicker is going to be the one that is able to create mismatches. It's not necessarily about transition. I'm going to say some transition notes here in a sec. It's not about transition. It's just about getting into the offense faster. For the season, Franz Wagner scores 1.18 points per possession. That's in the 62nd percentile of the league in transition, according to data from Synergy. Jaylen Suggs is tied with him at 1.18, does that significantly more. Jaylen Suggs is going to be really key because really Jaylen and Franz are the only two players that make it a point to push the pace. And again, it's not necessarily to score. Jaylen Suggs does this thing, and definitely watch for it, where he will get the ball and push the pace and get down court, get to about the free throw line, and circle back around as he waits for everyone to come back. And the reason he does this is it flattens the defense. It forces the defense to form that wall and opens up potential to kick back out to three-point shooters, opens the potential. Okay, now they can't organize as well. So they've got to do mismatches. They got to do cross matches. Maybe not the matchups they want. And so even just a little bit of pressure, it's not necessarily about scoring all the time. It's just a little bit of pressure sets the rest of the possession up for success. And both the Cavs and the Magic are going to have to do this. The Cavs are a much better team in transition than the Magic are. Magic are not a heavy transition team. These are both teams that play fairly slowly. We're going to expect some low possession games. Like I will be real here. I will predict there will be at least one game in this series where neither team scores 100. The defenses are that good. The teams play that slow or play that few possessions. We will get a game that has a low score like that. And so the reason why I want to highlight Franz is because Franz is one of those players that runs with Jaylen. He wants to get down court. He wants to, get you backpedaling so he can do his Euro steps and get by you. But the other part of this is the Magic are going to need Franz Wagner to hit a three-point shot. Like I said yesterday, three-point shooting is, and I've said the last 2 days really, three-point shooting is going to be one of the big factors in this series. Three-point shooting is going to be a huge deal in this series. Just no getting around it, no changing it. It's going to be a big deal. If the Magic can make some threes, they're in this game. If the Magic are missing threes and Cleveland's making their threes, it's going to be trouble. And Cleveland is designed to make threes in a way that the Magic are not. And so any little, Franz Wagner had a bad three-point shooting year. Like, no getting around it. We're all hopeful that he'll be able to return. He'll progress to his mean, that this is just a blip, and we'll just look back and be like, I don't know what happened that season. You look at his free throw percentage. Franz is shooting 85% from the line. Like, that's his career average. There's not a problem with his shot. He's just missing shots right now. And he's been missing shots all year. Shot 28.1% from three this season. Franz, the Magic are going to need a little bit of a boost from Franz. And that's on top of this because I would expect Evan Mobley to guard Franz Wagner. That's what they did in the regular season. There'll be a lot of switching, so that won't be exclusively how it is. But I do expect Evan Mobley to get the call on Franz Wagner. And that's going to be a huge factor. It might limit Franz Wagner's scoring, which means other players are going to have to step up their scoring if they're going to put that much focus on stopping him. I think there is a real, it's going to be a struggle. There's going to be, Franz will find a way. He'll get his points. He's too good not to, but it's going to be a struggle. Someone's going to struggle with Evan Mobley. And what the Magic have to do, and I mentioned this yesterday, what the Magic have to do is they have to make Cleveland doubt their decision on who Evan Mobley guards. Like, that's going to be one of the big games of this series. That's going to be one of the big cat and mouse games of this series, is making JB Bickerstaff debate and change who Evan Mobley guards throughout the course of the series. That's going to be a big factor in this thing. And Franz has a huge part to play in that, because when Evan Mobley isn't guarding him, Franz needs to convert. When Franz gets an open three, he needs to make them. Like, we're in the results business now. It's not like, oh, you'll get better at it. It's no, you need to make this three, because if you don't, that 3-point lead doesn't become a 6-point lead. This stuff matters. Every possession, these guys don't understand the pressure they're about to face and how every little possession matters. They don't understand that. They've never felt it. And they're going to feel it every moment. There may be a game that the Magic lose that they shouldn't lose. And they're going to understand, oh, that that 7-2 stretch in the third quarter that, when we had the chance to extend a 6-point lead to 12, and instead it got down to 1 at the end of the third quarter. That's the stuff that stuff matters right now. It matters every game, but it matters even more in a playoff series. And so if you're looking for someone who can swing the Magic toward winning this series, Cole Anthony is my first guy. Franz Wagner. Franz Wagner is one of the most important players on the team. That should be obvious. But a big bounce back, a big game from Franz Wagner is going to go a long way for this Magic team. We'll talk about the centers because we haven't really talked much about Jarrett Allen and how the Magic attack him. Why Wendell Carter not Mo Wagner. I changed my mind mid-podcast. Why Wendell Carter matters for the Magic. We'll get to him coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with more than 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Okay, we're going to close things out. I was going to talk about Mo Wagner in this spot because, like I said, I was chatting with King James Gospel. You can check out that Q&A over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, and I asked specifically, what's one matchup that I don't want to say terrifies you. I think the way I phrased it was, what's one matchup that concerns you about this series? And he said Mo Wagner versus Jarrett Allen, and that kind of took me a little bit by surprise. But again, I do think the Magic's depth and the Magic's bench, depth of scoring at least, is going to be an advantage for the Magic. I think the Magic do have a little bit of a depth advantage. Cleveland relies a lot on shooting off their bench, whether it's Jordan Yang, whether it's Sam Merrill, whether it's, they got Tristan Thompson kind of playing backup center, I believe still. The Cavs going to rely heavily on their starters to score. And the Magic, will get, the Magic rely on getting good games from Cole Anthony and getting good games from Mo Wagner. And Mo Wagner is super efficient in the paint. He's very, very good at scoring down there. Obviously, we'll get whatever we get from Jonathan Isaac offensively. We know what we're going to get from him defensively. And so it's, Mo Wagner is a really interesting and really good pick. And so I want to give credit to that and credit to the original idea here and say, yes, Mo Wagner is going to matter. If him averaging 10 plus points per game, 13 points per game, somewhere in that range, is a huge boost. And those are games the Magic have come to rely on him for that offense around the basket to keep putting pressure on the rim when Paolo and Franz are, not in the game or not the primary guys, being able to run that pick and run the mojo pick and roll with Joe Ingles. Huge boost for this team. Absolutely huge boost. But as I've talked about this show and began thinking about it, it's like, no, actually, one of the big keys to the series is going to be Wendell Carter. He is, as I've said numerous times to people, he is kind of the Rorschach test for this team. He had a rough year, 11 points per game, 6.9 rebounds per game, shot 37.4% from three, which is a career high. 60% effective field goal percentage is also a career high, but shot only 7.7 field goal attempts per game, a career low. This was a weird season for Wendell Carter. There are games where he looked absolutely killer, absolutely what the Magic need on both ends. And then there were games where he got out-muscled and outworked and just kind of seemed to be there. And we saw plenty of games where Mo Wagner finished and Wendell Carter did not. That's going to be one of the bigger questions of this series is every game, honestly, what Wendell Carter are we going to get? Are we going to get the good Wendell Carter or are we going to get the bad Wendell Carter? Are we going to get the energetic, the focused, the intense, the physical Wendell Carter? Or are we going to get kind of the passive Wendell Carter that's just kind of there and not really doing much in the paint? What worked for him Sunday, and obviously he was dealing with the back spasm, so he played a little bit less, but what worked for him Sunday was he sat in that dunker spot and got shots around the basket first. He was a paint presence first and then became an outside shooter. I would argue, though, that his outside shot's actually going to be really important in this series. The Magic need shooters, no doubt about it. It's the big question in this series is where the Magic going to find shooting? How are the Magic going to loosen the paint up? If the Magic want to drive Jared Allen away from the paint and take his shot blocking out of the paint, that probably means the Magic need a three from Wendell Carter early on. An early three from Wendell Carter in the first quarter. If he takes 2 threes, he's averaging 3.1 per game. If he takes 2 threes, both of them need to be in the first quarter and both of them need to be makes. And that could probably be it after that. But they just need to space things out. Make Jared Allen a half step too late to guard the paint, to guard the rim. For the Magic to stretch out this defense, Wendell Carter is going to have to make some shots. Again, and this shouldn't be surprising, everyone has a part to play to make this team work, to make this series work for Orlando. And Wendell Carter's part is to space the floor on offense. Defensively, Cleveland does have a weakness. They are not a great rebounding team. That was a big reason why they lost the Knicks last year. Despite their size, they will give up rebounds. They will give up offensive rebounds. And that is a big area where the Magic make up a lot of ground. Now, they are really good defending second chance points. They're kind of like the Magic with turnovers, where the Magic turn the ball over a lot, but they don't give up a lot of points off turnovers. We haven't talked about turnovers a lot this week. The Magic have to find a way to win the glass. As a team, the Magic are a good rebounding team. I think they're top 5 in the league in defensive rebound rate. They'll grab 73, 74% of their defensive rebounds. They do not have one dominant rebounder. Wendell Carter at 6.9 is way too low for your starting center. And again, Wendell Carter's your Rorschach test. You see what you want to see in Wendell Carter. He is not like a dominant rebounder, but the Magic need him to be a big-time rebounder. He's going to need to get 7-8 rebounds per game. Paolo is going to need to be at 6, 7, 8 rebounds per game. Franz is going to need 5, 6 rebounds per game. Everyone, Cole Anthony's a great rebounder for a guard. Everyone's going to have to do their part to secure the ball and secure possession. You cannot give extra shots to this Cavs team. And this Cavs team is susceptible to being outworked on the glass. That is what's on the line here. That is what's at stake for this Magic team. And Wendell Carter is going to have to do things this series that we know he is capable of doing. We know he can hit threes. We know he can rebound. We know he can defend at a high level, even against bigger centers like Jared Allen. We know he can do all these things, but he has done them inconsistently this season. And so as we get set for the playoffs, as we look ahead to the playoffs, Wendell Carter is a big, big, big factor. He is a big player in this story. And if the Magic get good, the Magic are not going to win a game in this series if Wendell Carter plays poorly. Paolo's got to play well. Franz has got to play well. A lot of players have to play well. If Wendell Carter does not play well, if Wendell Carter is not solid defensively and solid on the glass, the Cavs are going to get those second chance opportunities. They're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to steal that game. If he is good in those areas, if he does hit some threes, the Magic have a really good chance to win. And, just taking a step back now from the topic of the show, this is the playoffs. This is what it's about. You know what every player is capable of doing. It's now about whether they can do it at a higher level. The playoffs are kind of about making your bets. What are you willing to give up? How are you willing to lose? Remember back in 2020, the Bucks were willing to let Gary Clark shoot threes. And Gary Clark had one game where he made 4 threes. The Magic won that game. Milwaukee said to themselves, he ain't going to do that again. He didn't. Bucks won that series in 5. That's going to be part of this. Is okay, what is Cleveland willing to give up? They're going to be willing to give up Magic threes. And so your good 3-point shooters, Wendell Carter, Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, Joe Ingles when he's in, Jaylen Suggs, they've got to hit those threes. They got to make Cleveland pay for those bets. And that's why I'm really big. That's why these three players are worth highlighting, how they play and how they overcome shortcomings that they had throughout the season that we know they can overcome. That's what's going to determine this series. That's what's going to determine whether this is a competitive, long series, one that the Magic can win, or whether this is a series that goes a little shorter than we think and the Magic look like they're just not ready for the stage. That's what's on the line here. It's going to make for a fascinating, at least 4 games, probably 6, probably 7. It's going to make for an interesting 2 weeks here coming up. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the Filmmakers on podcasts to your podcast enabled device. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. You can also check out my Patreon page. I have a video breaking down how the Magic need to attack Evan Mobley. You can find that beginning Wednesday morning at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Club. That is behind the paywall. So please support if you can. And of course, I truly do appreciate all of your support. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube and now available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Day now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.